Hello everybody, welcome back to Amateur Vintage Electronics. If you have seen my last video, you probably can tell that I'm pretty excited about the MagicSD project from Andrew, which he posted on 68KMLA. Very briefly explained what MagicSD is. It enables you to use a SCSI-to-SD in order to exchange files as quickly as with a USB drive between a modern Mac and a vintage Mac, or a modern Windows PC and a vintage Mac for that matter. I will quickly tell you on how to set it up, because then I'm going to answer one question that popped up on the 68KMLA forum, which is on how to customize the image size of the MagicSD. And I found a pretty easy way to do that. But before that, we have to set it up. So let's go through it very quickly once more. The first thing you do is basically you format the SD card in order to make sure that it's formatted correctly and nothing is on there. I'm using the SD format app for that. After that, you go to the 68KMLA forum and you download the MagicSD image file from Andrew. Apparently it's crucial that once you've downloaded and unzipped the file, that you end the DMG ending to that file so that the computer recognizes it as an image file. That done, you're using a program called Balena Etcher, or you can also use the DD command, in order to get that image file flashed onto the SD card. Now this takes a while. After that, for some reason, I don't know if that's with everybody, but with me, the SD card is then unmounted. So you need to go to Disk Utility and mount the SD card. If you have a look at the card, you find a bunch of files there. You shouldn't play around there. You shouldn't change anything here, because apparently this is crucial for the whole thing to work. So you should not change the file configuration on the MagicSD directly. You can then use, for instance, Basilisk in order to choose the disk number 1 image or the second partition, to mount it with the emulator and have a look at the file. You can drag any program to it if you want to use the pre-installed 701 system, or you can also install any other system you'd like to have on there. As you also see, it's a 500 megabyte image. Both partitions are, and we are going to change that in a couple of seconds. Regarding the SCSI-to-SD setup, it's very simple. You can basically use all the default settings unless you're using a Mac Plus. I will post the Mac Plus specific settings down in the comments as well. And you only have to change one thing, which is the start sector. And you have to set a certain parameter in order for the SCSI-to-SD to know where the disk image starts actually on the SD card. That done, you just plug it in, and I'll just show you what you have when you've done all that. Now, as you see, I have booted my Mac SE with the SCSI-to-SD containing the MagicSD. Like indicated, it's System 701, which is here on the system partition with 500 megabytes. And you also have a second partition, also with 500 megabytes, with the kind remark that this is the second partition. Now, in order to change these image sizes, you will need the SCSI-to-SD initialization disk, the tools disk I created. This contains a minimal Macintosh System 608. It contains LIDA version 756 and the patched hard disk SC setup. And first I have to shut down the computer and turn it off in order to insert the SCSI-to-SD tools disk and turn it on again. Now, why did I do that? Because I have installed a yellow ribbon cable, which makes the Macintosh take the floppy drive with a higher priority, essentially meaning that it's now going to boot from the floppy drive rather than any internal or externally connected SCSI drive. You can even probably hear the floppy drive working. And it just takes a couple of seconds because System 608 is much faster than System 7. And it has booted also the two partitions from the externally connected SCSI. And we have here, like I said, System 608. Now, I will show you what happens when you try just deleting the volumes with Lido. Lido is a disk management program created essentially to mount non-Apple supported SCSI drives. Now we'll scan for SCSI drives, and here on SCSI priority 3 we have the two Mac volumes we've just mounted, and as you see here it shows that there is actually 2 GB. That's the SCSI to SC settings we left by default, so this actually determines the hard drive size of the connected drive, not the disk image that is on the SD card, and we're going to use this to our advantage. Here you can also see on SCSI priority 0, just as an explanation, that I also have an internal drive connected which I have not mounted. Now I will format this in order to show you what happens. Here it says that it will essentially delete everything that's on it, but it won't. So I will set it up again after formatting. Here you can choose an icon. I'll just choose the regular one. And you'll see that it now says volumes system. And although the program just told us that it has essentially deleted everything that's on it, we still have the system partition. It still has, oops, you won't see it in that view. It still has 500 megabytes and it still has System 701 on it. Now, for that I'm going to use the patched hard disk SC setup, because that's not pretty good for initializing drives, but better for partitioning them. I will choose the correct SCSI drive, which is device number 3, and I will hit partition. And I will go to custom, and here we have the system partition. Now when I try to unlock it, we will get an error message. And what you do is you just try it again. And for whatever reason it's unlocked now. Now I can actually remove the partition. And it's empty. And now I'm just creating a new Mac volume with the maximum size it shows us here. It should be a little over 2 gigabytes. Now I will hit OK. Partitioning was successful, and we'll quit this and go back to Lido in order to initialize this disk. Again, firing up Lido. Again, it's scanning for SCSI devices, and here it now says uninitialized. So again, I will hit the easy setup. Now it's creating the directory. And that should be it. Now if I quit this, we'll have here the Mac volume, nothing on it, and just a little over 2 GB available. Now I will create a new folder and just call it test1234. And now we're going to put the MagicSD back into the iMac in order to see if that worked. Now as you can see here, the MagicSD still contains the exact same files as before. And now when we run Basilisk, you will also see that it still finds the contents of the second volume, but the first volume is called Mac volume. It has the test file on it we've just created, and I forgot that it has the 2 GB. And that's essentially it. That's how easy you can change the image size of your MagicSD. Slight remark, I didn't manage to get the second partition running again, so even if I initialize 2 partitions the way I showed you, it still does only recognize the one we've created first. So essentially the disk 2 you can see on the SD card on the iMac is rendered useless, but nonetheless you have at least one image with the size you want. Whoa, I didn't expect that to happen. Obviously the cat wants to go on my lap, okay. Secondly, sorry, just threw me off a bit. The tools disk, I will create image files of that and post it as a response to Andrew's MagicSD project together with that video on the 68KMLA forum. So you have easy access to that. And lastly, if I summarize it all, the image size is determined by the SCSI2SD settings. So essentially that means if you set the SCSI2SD to 1 GB, you can that way create a 1 GB image, or if you have a newer vintage Mac, you can probably even get more gigabytes out of it. Thanks for watching. I hope this helps. Stay tuned for more. Take care.